Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies as we continue with part 4 of the Genius of Freemasonry and the 20th Century Crusade by J.D. Buck. The Grand Architect of the Universe. The concept of the builder is basic and everywhere manifest in Freemasonry. Hiram, the master builder, who drew the plans of the temple and day by day placed the designs of the trestle board, is taken as a human symbol of the designer and creator of the cosmos. The relation of Hiram to the temple symbolizes the relation of the great architect of the universe to the universe itself. In the building of the temple, the work of construction fell to the entered apprentices and fellow crafts. When the temple was completed, these also were to become masters and receive the word. The progressive science of human life and the natural, orderly, and progressive relation of man to God were thus involved and ingrained without dogmatizing or theologizing. It was illustrated and left to the apprehension and intelligence of the candidate. This method of teaching and the lesson taught is the supremacy of human wisdom. It involves the ideal of progressive intelligence which, loyal to truth, duty, and obligation, assures the higher and still higher evolution of man. It is based on the facts of human observation and experience. Man is an individual intelligence, God the universal intelligence. The growth of intelligence in man, his conformity to law and order, his allegiance to duty and obligation, his proficiency in all preceding work or degrees, give him the right and secure for him the benefit of higher degrees of knowledge, power, and privilege. This is not argued out. It is illustrated by a personal experience and demonstrated at every step. The personal experience that is thus secured brings the man consistently nearer to the master, as it brings the master nearer to God. What our ancient brethren in the greater mysteries called the immortal gods were simply perfected by this normal human evolution. First a man, then a master, then a god. The theologians who have made such a caricature or a fetish of Jesus were ignorant of this normal, progressive, higher evolution of man. No man of intelligence nowadays will assume that the practice of the precepts under consideration can have any other results than this higher evolution. Neither can he determine any limits to the process and possibilities of such evolution. Hence, the theologian has created an impassable gulf between the man Jesus and the Christ, or between man and God, thus annulling the wages of an upright life. To patch up the inconsistency and bridge the gulf thus created, they invented the vicarious atonement, the application which clericalism proceeded to preempt and to monopolize. Preach and theorize as they may, they make an upright life and a dissolution one practically equal. The just and upright man who, nevertheless, denies the creed and refuses tithes for mass, if murdered by a villain or by a priest under the charge of heresy, is bound for Hades, while his murderer, by confession and fixing it up with the cleric, gains absolution and goes to heaven. No greater abomination in morals was ever practiced upon the children of men. The sinner sees the point, compromises with his conscience and his sense of personal responsibility, and takes his chances. Such a doctrine can have but one result, viz., to blunt the moral sense. Strictly speaking, there is no theology in Freemasonry. It does not speculate regarding the being of God. It recognizes certain self-evident proportions. As intelligence designs the temple, so intelligence designs, builds, governs, and beautifies the universe. The analogy is self-evident. What intelligence is, we do not know. What it does, we see everywhere around us. We see how it grows, to what uses it can be applied, and how the highest and noblest results can be attained. We learn this beyond all controversy from the facts of human experience. selfishness, debauchery, and uncharitableness degrade man towards the brute self-control, the recognition of personal responsibility and loving kindness lead man upward to mastership and towards divinity. The analogy is complete between man as the builder of character through self-control, man, the builder of temples from intelligent designs, man, the builder of society through brotherly love, relief, and truth, and God, the builder of worlds, the great architect of the universe, in all, through all, and over all. Man, everywhere, at all times, creates his own concept, his own idea of God. Every nation and every religion has its divinity. Philosophers and even poets like Watts are God builders. Listen to Watts. His nostrils breathe out living flames. He's a consuming fire. His jealous eyes, his wrath inflames to rise his vengeance higher. Infants not a span long would indeed be a dainty dish. For such a being could man have done much worse had he never heard or dreamed of God at all. The atheist, however, in trying to escape from these caricatures of deity and in denying deity altogether, is wholly illogical. The atheist is also the creation of theologians. The antithesis does not lie between the God of the heathen or of Watts and no God, but between the God of fear and superstition and the God of love, reason, and justice. The postulate of divinity, this concept of the grand architect of the universe found in Freemasonry, is, like all others, the creation of man, as an incentive to adoration and worship, as a concept apprehensible to the human mind, and implying a relation to man that constantly draws him nearer to God and forms the basis of ethics for the building of character. It has no equal in history of human thought or the intelligent conception of man. While theologians are going to pieces and men imagine they can get along without God and are willing to be called atheists, here lies the strongest bulwark for the preservation of that spirit of reverence and devotion which elevates and ennobles man. Such a concept is indeed a strong anchor to the human soul. This recognition of divinity in Masonry is of such a character and is used in such a way as to give no offense to a brother of any religious faith, be he Jew, Christian, Buddhist, or a believer in any other of the world's great religions. Coming as it does from remote antiquity, the concept worked out by masters of human thought and noble living in the greater mysteries of antiquity, and commensurate with the highest intelligence of any age, avoiding crass materialism and atheism on the one hand, and fanaticism and fetishism on the other. It stands as a boon, a priceless jewel to the human race. This does not imply that the intelligent mind, the reverent and devout soul, cannot enlarge on the concept. The range of human intelligence as a spark of divinity seems practically infinite. It does mean, however, that it stands as a consistent, wise, and inspiring theorem, a consensus of human thought, reverent, reasonable, consistent, and uplifting. The recognition of deity is never overlooked nor forgotten in the lodge room. It can never there be degraded to a fetish. It is not involved in words and ceremonies that can ever degenerate into lip service. As already shown, it can never give offense nor excite controversy, except by misinterpretation and by being misapplied. And this would be wholly unmasonic. There has been a tendency at certain times and in certain directions to Christianize certain Masonic degrees. Any sectarian or religious basis given to any degree in Masonry is wholly unmasonic and wholly opposed to the real genius of Freemasonry. The whole of true Masonry is potentially embodied in the first 3 degrees, beautiful, impressive, and sublime as are some of the so-called higher degrees, they all have their root in and take their rise from the Blue Lodge and must be held consistent with that body. There are not only many conceptions of the Supreme Being, but many names by which these concepts have been designated. Among the Jews from whom a great deal of the Masonic ritual is derived and legends adopted, there were several of these God names involving certain attributes of deity. The same is true of the Hindu, Persian, and many other ancient peoples and religions. To give any one of these words or God names supremacy above all others and call it the true word or the real word with no reason or explanation therefore is a mere conceit bordering on dogma. The real word is not a mere matter of phonetics, an empty sound, signifying nothing. Words, at best and at most, are symbols of the intelligent concepts of man. And as Brother Albert Pike abundantly showed, if any one word known to man in any language can convey the meaning of the lost word, it is the Sanskrit, Aum. But this involves a whole philosophy of man and the universe. It also involves the science of phonetics up to Marconi and beyond. The synchronicities, vibration of the being of man with both God and nature. It were better for the enlightenment of the craft had no attempt been made to enlarge or improve upon the concept of the great architect of the universe, and that every just and upright Mason should remember, apprehend, and revere the builder and the sustainer of man, the light of the universe. If the sincere and thoughtful Mason would take notice of the symbolism and the use made everywhere in the lodge of the word light, and remember that the real initiates are called also the Illuminati, or Sons of Light, those who are illuminated and who in turn illuminate, he might gather clues of not only the whole symbolism of Masonry, but also of the real word. Light and love are the most significant omnific words. Nor is this true in a figurative sense only. Often has the refined spiritual vision of men discerning a light, and presently a radiant being in the midst thereof. When it was seen that the being emanated the light, the halo around the heads of saints is not a purely human invention, and the transfiguration of Jesus will one day be explained and apprehended as naturally as the waves of Marconi. The concepts of the human mind are everywhere undergoing refinement as man rises in the scale of human evolution. With all this progress and refinement, and with these wonderful discoveries regarding nature's finer forces, it will still be found that in the symbolism of Freemasonry, there was planted a real knowledge capable of unfolding and destined to unfold for, lo, these many generations. To all of these profound secrets, the concept of the great architect of the universe stands and will forever remain the rock of ages, the acme and the epitome of human wisdom as a concept of divinity. Every Catholic should rigidly adhere to the teachings of the Roman pontiffs, especially in the matter of modern liberty, which already, under the semblance of honesty of purpose, leads to error and destruction. Pope Leo XIII, 1885. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment, and if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.